Hello, and welcome to the video. Today, I wanted to talk about using styrofoam for terrain building. Now, I've always got a lot of this stuff sitting around from packaging, and I've always thought that it would be cool to make some terrain from it. But let's be honest, this stuff kind of sucks. It's just got a weird texture to it, it doesn't hold a pattern very well, it's a mess whenever you try to break it. I mean, the little bits of it get everywhere. I just haven't been able to find a good use for it. Until now, I think I might have finally cracked the code on using styrofoam for terrain building. But as you can see here, I actually got some decent looking ruins using mostly styrofoam and cardboard. So if that sounds interesting, go ahead and stick around and I'll show you how I did it.
Alright, to get started here, we just have our regular old styrofoam and we have some thin corrugated cardboard that I got from a box. And one thing with this styrofoam is that it is going to make a mess. It's comprised of these little foam balls and they're going to go everywhere. Because of static, they're going to stick to you. You're going to find them everywhere. It's going to make a mess. So just be prepared for that. Now at first I wanted to add some texture to the cardboard. And at first I tried this foil ball, but it was pretty useless. It just didn't have the strength to cut through it. So what I used was these old lava rocks that I have. These are, you can find them in landscaping areas, stuff like that. People use them for decorations. But since I had a couple of them on hand, they're very porous and they make good texture on foam, cardboard, and such. I wanted to go ahead and add this to the cardboard. It does give it a little bit of texture. You're not going to get as much as if you were using this on foam, but at least it's going to help break it up and not make it so smooth looking. Once we've textured up the cardboard, I went ahead and cut it into strips to start making our bricks. And it's up to you with what size bricks you want. Now these are ruins, so they could be from buildings, which are going to be bigger, or they could be from like houses, which are going to have smaller bricks. It's really kind of whatever you're feeling at the time. I feel that the smaller the brick, the better it looks. But since this was kind of an experiment, I wasn't too careful with exactly how I cut these. Now moving forward, now that I know what the end product's going to look like, I would definitely take my time and make them more uniform looking. Now this is going to take a little bit of time because you are going to need to cut a lot of bricks, but just go ahead, put something on in the background, relax, and just kind of get into it. Now here I'm just using one of my miniatures that I use for Frostgrave. And I'm just getting a very rough idea for the ruins that I'm going to make. I wanted them to be taller than the miniatures so that they could hide behind them, but I didn't need them to be gigantic. Again, this was an experiment. I didn't want to go crazy and try to make something huge. I just wanted to see if this was going to work first. And once I have a rough shape for the ruins that I wanted, I just went ahead and cut them out roughly. Styrofoam is terrible to try to cut smooth. Unless you use a hot wire cutter or something like that, I'm not even sure if that would work or not, but it's gonna be very rough wherever you cut it. So it's nice to have the machined edges on it if you want something smooth, but as far as trying to cut it, it's gonna be very rough. Now to glue the styrofoam together, I use this Gorilla Glue. I really like this for gluing styrofoam and XPS foam together as it dries without needing air circulation. And I don't know about using a hot glue gun for styrofoam. I feel like it might melt it a little bit too much to be useful. I didn't try it, but if you want to, I mean, there's always extra styrofoam lying around, so go for it and let me know how it worked. Now, once the pieces dried, I started putting on the tiles. And again, I started using Gorilla Glue, but it leaves like an annoying residue on your fingers, and I just got tired of using it, plus it's more expensive than Elmer's glue, so I ended up switching over to just regular PVA glue and using that. Now, I do want to point out the obvious before somebody goes crazy in the comments here. These are definitely cheap homemade ruins. They do not look as good as what you can buy 3D printed. They're not as good as what you can get with XPS foam or anything like that. This video is just meant to show how if you don't have those materials available, or if you don't have the extra funding to buy 3D printed or manufactured ruins and terrain, you can make your own out of just household items, and you're going to get decent results for it. So I just wanted to let you know ahead of time that yes, I'm aware that these are not the most spectacular runes that you're ever going to see, but they're definitely decent for what they are. And they are certainly better than having nothing at all. So don't let that stop you. I'm sure that you can get this material pulled together relatively easily. And if you want some good looking terrain for your table, I would say give them a shot and see what you can do with them. I'm sure that there is a lot more that can be done with this, and I'm actually looking forward to trying to create more and bigger terrain using this technique. Also, I'd like to ask if there is any certain piece of terrain that you guys would like to see built, or if you like these terrain building videos, let me know down in the comment. I'm thinking of throwing in a terrain build once in a while along with painting miniatures. Now once it dries, and it's going to take a while to dry, I'm going to come back in and remove some of these flat pieces. I'm just using this X-Acto knife here to just kind of peel it away using my thumb. I'm not really cutting it or anything like that. I'm just using it to kind of pull it apart. You could just use your thumbnails or a screwdriver or something like that to do the same thing. And once I rough it up around these edges, I'm just going to come in with my snips and just nip off the corners of the bricks that are sticking out too far, just so that they look more like bricks going into the earthworks than they do a piece of cardboard hanging off the edge. And now it's time to coat this thing, and this is a mixture of PVA glue, black paint, and I even throw a little scoopful of plaster of Paris in here. I feel like it just toughens it up a little bit extra, and you just mix it up a little bit with some water until it's like a thick milk consistency, and we are just going to slap this all over the piece. I'm going to put on a pretty heavy coat because I want it to really lock in this styrofoam, otherwise the little foam balls are just going to fall right off. So I'm putting a pretty healthy layer on here, and this is just going to put a nice hard shell on everything, a nice protective layer, and it's going to hold everything together really nicely. It's also going to sort of cover it up and not make it look so much like it's styrofoam and cardboard. So I just wanted to take a minute and say, if you like the video so far, please consider liking and subscribing. I also have some Amazon affiliate links. If you need to purchase something on Amazon and you'd like to support the channel, you can click one of those links, and then no matter what you buy, it doesn't have to be the item that you even clicked on. Anything that you buy after clicking that link, I receive a small commission from it. And it really helps out to support the channel and keep me motivated to keep making more videos. And it doesn't cost you anything extra. Okay, now here's the secret to getting this to look not like styrofoam. While everything is still wet, I have this coarse sand, and all I'm doing is sprinkling a very light layer on the parts where I want it to be like dirt or like rubble where it isn't the tile or the bricks so much, and then just using the very, very fine sand in there and just doing a really light dusting over the bricks as well. But I'm mostly focusing on where it would be like earth or the inside shattered part of the concrete or material that was used to build the ruins. And this is really going to help sell the illusion that this is not styrofoam and cardboard together. It's going to look more natural. It's going to look more like it's a real piece of terrain. Now this is going to take quite a while to dry, but be patient, let it dry completely, or else it's going to kind of make a mess when we go to dry brush things. Okay, once they dried, I went ahead and I hit them with a black primer just to cover in some of the spots where the purple was still showing through. You could just do this with black paint. You don't have to use a primer or anything like that. I just had a spray can ready to go. And I just wanted to cover it up as much as possible, and I'm going to use a brush to even go in between some of the bricks and cover up those white spots as well. Now to dry brush, I'm just using some cheap old brown apple barrel paint. It doesn't matter what tone or anything you want, and I'm just doing a rough, light dry brush over all of the styrofoam parts that are showing, because this is kind of like the earthy part, or maybe the rubble that you can still see. I'm just putting down a regular old dry brush over all of this. I want the black to still show through so that they have a dark characteristic to them. So for the bricks, I'm just doing a dry brush of gray over top of them. And since I didn't have any gray paint available, I just mixed some black and white together. I'm not too worried about the shade of it or a perfect color. And with this, you don't really need a lot of skill. You don't need to be too careful. I'm just putting this dry brush over all of it. I just want to make it look like there's some kind of stone material. And while I'm at it too, I'm actually going to put a very light dry brush over top of the brown as well. And this is just going to tone it down. Maybe there's like little rocks in here or something, but it's going to tone it down and blend it in a little bit more. Now, depending on how fancy you wanted to get, you could go and do a wash over everything. If you wanted to add more colors, you could do a base coat. And I actually thought about doing a base coat of like a bluish on here, like a dark blue maybe for Frostgrave. But I figured I would keep these kind of generic so that I could use them for any of my war games. And as you can see, they're really kind of coming together. They look pretty decent for being old styrofoam, a little bit of glue, and some cardboard. These aren't bad. They're gonna look pretty neat on the table. I have to say, I'm really surprised at how well they came out. And to be honest, I was a little sloppy with the bricks because I wasn't sure if this was even going to work, and I didn't want to spend a ton of time and then it just be a complete flop. I think next time I would definitely take my time and cut the bricks a little more uniform and be careful with how I'm gluing them down. But I mean, for what these are, I would be happy to make a ton of these. And in fact, I kind of want to make a bigger piece of terrain using this method and see how it works out. I think that it's got some real potential. And now we're all finished. I did a quick little setup just to show you what they would look like on a regular table setup. And I gotta say, I'm really impressed with them. I never thought that they would come out looking this good for what they are. I mean, all it is styrofoam and cardboard from start to finish. And it really amazes me how well they came out for just throwing them together. I wasn't sure how they were going to be. I thought maybe it wasn't going to work very well and I was going to have to scrap the project, but I'm really happy with it. And I hope that you enjoyed watching the video. I hope that this gives you some ideas, and if you have some ideas that you'd like me to try, I'd love to hear them in the comments. So I just want to say thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.